What's going on, guys? My name is RagingRaptor and welcome to a new World of Tanks preview video. And today I want to welcome you on the 1.7.1 test server. And today will be interesting because we're going to have a look at each of the 3 new tanks. I'm going to tell you what you have to prepare for, how much free experience in theory you need to gather, and we are going to have a look between the stock and top configurations of each tank, while also having a look at their armor model. If you're looking for gameplay, please wait for 1 or 2 days maybe, because first we're going to do just a preview of those tanks stats wise, and then we're going to have a look at, well, gameplays and how those tanks feel in battle. Because honestly, I'm very surprised by some of those tanks and how Wargaming laid out their modules. They genuinely look very interesting. But yeah, let's start where we are now going to begin your journey onto a new tier 8 vehicle. It is the KB3, as already mentioned countless times, and well, you're going to start to have 51,300 experience needed. Then you're going to get the IS-22, which is an IS-2 hull with 2 different guns. You even have 2 different turrets. And interestingly enough, both turrets, like the stock turret, is actually not as bad as you might think. Yes, it is not good, but it's not as bad as like the ISM. If you remember, 100mm turret on tier 10. That is absolutely garbage. Against tier 10s, obviously. Interestingly enough, I just want to quickly go through them, but as you can see, the tank has an 85mm stock gun. But, surprise, surprise, the penetration is actually not garbage. I honestly love this. I think this is a very well made change by Wargaming themselves, because it shows that they actually more or less understand that playing with a stock gun, which has no chance whatsoever to inflict any damage because it lacks penetration, is absolute garbage. And I love that they decided to give this 180 alpha gun 212mm of penetration. I honestly look forward to test this gun out because it kind of just looks very fun to use, in my personal opinion. But nevertheless, if you're going to use free experience, it will be a very quick grind. You need 20,000 if you round it up here, and another 65,000 to get the IS-3 too, which will be your tier 9 vehicle. One important thing though about this tank, if you want, you can play it with the stock turret without any issues. You can even mount the top turret without getting the tracks, it looks like. However, I do think you have enough to even mount modules. I'm not entirely sure, but I think around 2.5 tons is enough to mount your modules you want to have. But yeah, after the IS-22, you will get the IS-3 here. It's kind of weird. Wargaming gives you the opportunity to get another gun, the double gun 120mm S44-2. And honestly, it's not necessary. It's just a waste of 46,000 experience. And I'm surprised that they decided to do this. Because, well, let's be honest, why shouldn't they? Like, they make this grind very interesting. Yes, the stock turret is not as good as the top turret, especially because it is very flat cheek, so we're going to look at that in just a minute. But you can go straight to the top turret and the top gun, which has pretty good penetration values on standard rounds. Premium rounds are lacking a little bit because they are lacking the necessary punch of a heat round, which we will be seeing most likely on the tier 10 vehicle. Also, you can see it only has 390 alpha. Compared to the IS-22, however, 300 alpha. Excuse me, I made a little bit of a brain lapse there. It's very good. And again, you have to get the turret, and here, if you want to get the big guns, you have to get the tracks. Otherwise, you have no chance to mount the 2 BL9s, which you are going to need anyway. So you are going to lose quite a bit of experience on the IS-3 too. But I don't think it's so bad, because generally speaking, the stock guns are stock. They're just to 300 damage each. But I don't think that this is purely bad. It's not as bad as you might think, or I will personally feel like. And lastly, we are going to get the behemoth, the ST22. And the ST22 looks very, very interesting as well. It has not the IS4 mm heat penetration of 340, it only has 310, but it has this 440 alpha, which is just whammy. It's huge if you think about it. So yeah, as you can see, you're going to need 217,000 experience, but in total, because you need to waste around 90,000 over here, yeah, you need a lot. You need for almost 317,000 to just get this, but you need another 24,000 to get the tracks. If you want to have a somewhat fun in the eyes, well, not somewhat fun, it works stock, but you will like to get the tracks as well, so you can use the gun which you researched anyway, in my opinion. So yeah, when we go to the comparing tool, I am comparing all the tanks with their stock and their top configuration to just give you a quick little overview. The IS-22, there's not much changing, but definitely the alpha is changing. And interestingly enough, even though you have much smaller guns in the stock variation, the preparation time to do your double shot is a half a second longer, which is interesting. However, the block time while the gun is blocked is longer on the top configuration with the 300 alpha gun. And in general, you can see that the, well, should I say, the alpha or the reload time is obviously longer. I don't think the stock gun on the IS-22 will be unbearable like other tanks are, but I think it will be actually interesting. The only real issue I have is how bad the DPM is. Like you can see the DPM goes up by 330. This is a lot. This is a very, very much. It basically says that you can do an additional shot per minute, which is quite a big yikes in my opinion. Nevertheless, you're also gaining a little bit of turret armor, which is always really good to have when you are using a top configured tank. And lastly, the view range goes up by 20 meters, which is a lot in my personal opinion. When we quickly jump to the IS-32, it is a little bit different. The new guns or the higher alpha guns, obviously they need more reload time. And interesting enough, they only gain, when you're looking at the stock configuration, you only gain 183 DPM more and only 115 DPM more. However, with the top guns, you obviously have the 390 alpha instead of the 300 alpha, which is obviously something you always want to look forward to. The block time on the stock gun as well as on the top gun is the same with 2.5 preparation time of 2.5 seconds and a block time until after the double shot of 4 seconds. The turret traverse sadly goes down a lot when you are using the improved turrets, so that is very interesting in my personal opinion. And you actually lose a tiny touch of accuracy and aim time, which is also, interestingly enough, unfortunate. But you gain a lot in turret armor, 50mm in the front if you just look at the plain stats. Sadly, no changes in view range, which is a little bit of a pity. And now we have the behemoth, the ST2, which we know for so long already. Here I'm comparing it with the IS-4, either to show how power creep the IS-4 is or how decent the ST2 could be in that sense. Again, don't forget the IS-4 has a bit more premium round penetration, if I'm not mistaken. It has 340. Yes, it does, 340, not 310. So there, definitely the ST2 will have a little bit of a plus for that. Also, interestingly enough, apparently the calculation is a little bit... No, never mind. The IS-2 just has better DPM. If you think about it, the IS-4 has a long reload time with the same amount of alpha. And the IS-2 has the added benefit of having 2 shots basically ready. Sure, you need 5 seconds to get the shot ready again, which is a little bit long. But if you think about it, only 2.5 seconds preparation time to get the double shot out. That is quick for a potential 800 LED alpha in my personal opinion. Also something you shouldn't forget about is 8 degrees of gun repression to compare to the 6 degrees of the IS-4. Yes, it is less accurate. Yes, it needs a tiny touch longer to aim in. But now it has the same amount of hit points. It actually has a slightly better frontal armor. But the side armor is a decent chunk worse, and the turret apparently is a lot more thicker as well. And we're going to have a look at the damage model in just a second. And it is true that the ST1 doesn't have this 30mm rooftop of the IS-4, which is always a huge pain in the butthole. Nevertheless, mobility-wise, both tanks are almost equal. It depends how the soft stats are. The IS-4 is a tiny touch more mobile with a little bit better HP per ton ratio as well as top speeds. And view range wise, it is also 10 meters better, which I don't really think is a big issue. But yeah, this is the damage model of the ST2, and we can compare with the one of the ST1, and we already have, obviously there's a little mistake there, but it's the best what we can get. There are some minor differences. For example, the ST1 has those side skirts which are angled downwards, or side plates which are angled downwards. I don't really think that the ST2 do not have them. The lower plate is 160mm thick at a minus 30-degree angle, while here we have 180mm. So yes, the ST2 actually gained a little bit of lower plate armor, and the upper plate stays exactly the same at 150mm. And it looks like our little driver has it weird. Some plates are worse, but others are still decent. It looks like very interesting, in my personal opinion. Those side plates are 155mm, which are 50mm thicker than the ST1. So that's also a little bit of an upgrade. Side armor 140mm up and down. Whoops, this was one too far. And here also side armor 140mm up and down. So no real changes there, except for, as you can see, that the ST2's side armor model is worse, because the ST1 has like full tracks right here. It could be a modeling error, or it could just be an error of the side, but it's a small difference. To the turret, however, the turret is very interesting. You have a 100mm roof. This is again what I meant when I compared it to the IS-4. The IS-4 has this 30mm roof, which is a huge weak spot, which is very annoying. This one, as does the ST1, has 100mm, so you won't have the overmatching roof issue. However, you are having this cupola. This cupola is 190mm thick at a slope of 43 degrees, giving it a total of 260mm of effective armor. Our ST1, however, has 200mm of armor at a 37-degree slope. So even though the armor is slightly thicker, nominally, the ST2 has better armor because it is better inclined, has a better slope. And it's very important to note that the ST2 again has 8 degrees of gun depression, meaning that the cupola will be actually pretty hard to penetrate, I think. This will make the ST2 very formidable to play. Just remember, it has the same amount of gun depression as an AMX M451 or 54, which is actually very good in my personal opinion. So lastly, you have this very thick gun mantlet, which is 300mm, turret, which is around 300mm thick over here at its thickest part, which is very decent. And the gun mantlet itself, which is 330mm of thickness, basically all around. So if you want to penetrate the ST2, you definitely have to go for the cupola and hope for the best. I think even premium round spam may and most likely will be necessary to punch right through. But the turret-wise, it will be most likely the same as we already know from the ST1. So the only real difference when it comes to the turret is that it's obviously enlarged. Oops, this was again the wrong one. And it makes sense in the end that because you have two guns, but it's not that much. And it has ever so slight improvements to its armor scheme. So I already think the ST1 is already a rather formidable enemy on tier 9. So I think with the slight armor improvements on tier 10, it will not have a big issue with its armor. Personal opinion though. So armor-wise, the ST2 looks actually very good, I think. So let's have a look at the IS-3 now's armor model. This is a stock turret, and it looks very ugly in my opinion. But yeah, the whole armor is better than what you know from the IS-3. The IS-3 has if I'm not mistaken, 130 millimeters of armor, and this tank got 145 millimeters. By the way, still worse than what the defender has, just so you know. So keep that in mind, that your armor or whole armor still won't be very, very good. Also, the turret is 52 millimeters thick, the turret roof, which is not too bad. The cupola, however, is 90 millimeters thick on the stock turret, so that is really, really not good. Your side armor is 90 millimeters thick with this 30 millimeter spaced armor, as well as those plates over there. We all know them, we all hate them. The gun mantlet 240 millimeters and the 220 millimeters at almost a flat angle. Seriously, the IS-32 stock turret I think is very, very bad, and you need to get it away ASAP. Because looking at this top turret, which we have right here, it looks much more formidable. You have 280 millimeters of armor instead of 220 there. Your gun mantlet is also 280 millimeters thick. This means that most of your rounds, which you're getting shot at your turret, and if they're not premium rounds, they won't punch through. The cupola is still very small, but also very weak with just 100 millimeters of armor. Nevertheless, if you go back into the game, I would highest recommend to first get the turret. Those 26,000 experience will help you so much on getting better in this tank, because the stock turret really sucks balls in my opinion. So you can see, get the big turret. Sadly, you won't have enough load capacity to get your new gun. Then focus on the tracks, because I think those 100mm stock guns, they work. They will work. They will work without any issue. But the turret is key. You need to get this new turret. So let's move on to the IS-22, and this is also the stock turret, but let's first have a look at the whole armor. It's not good. 110 millimeters is trash. The lower plate is pretty okay-ish, but yeah, side armor 90 millimeters. This part over here is a little bit annoying. It feels like a 53 TP with even worse whole armor, because the turret is not too bad. Again, 215, yes, people can shoot through it, but it's not like 100 millimeters bad. Again, I want to point your interest at the ISM, which has this stock turret right here, which is 100 millimeters thick. Again, everybody can shoot through this turret without any issue. It's not as bad as that, but it still is not very good. You can work with it. You can see you have a huge gun mantlet, which is sadly only 220 millimeters thick. This means that on average, most tier 8 heavy tank enemies will be able to penetrate your turret frontally in 50% of the cases. The cupolas are very, very small. The roof is 25 millimeters thick, so it means that you can get overmatched there by anything above 75 millimeters of caliber. And rear armor is 60 millimeters. 20 millimeters stack armor means artillery will love this tank, I think. But let's have a look at the top turret, which looks much more sleeker and, oh boy, in my opinion, also much better. Just imagine now, you have this gun mantlet, which is 230 millimeters thick instead of 215. So that's already a nice little improvement. You have some very odd angles here, which are overlapping. And you have 235 millimeters there, plus your gun mantlet is even overlapping over here. So this turret is much more formidable as an enemy. Plus it has 52 millimeters of roof armor, which is also very, very good. You can see all this plate is 52 millimeters, not 225 anymore. So you will be very, very good in those positions. Sadly, you will have this cupola. Actually, no, not sadly. That's a good thing that this thing has a cupola, which is being able to penetrate. That's a good thing. Thumbs up to Wargaming to do that. So, and that is the IS-22. I think if you know what, what's that? 20 millimeters. Okay, that's very bad. That's actually very, very bad. But yeah, that is the IS-22 in its armor scheme. Let's once more go back into the game. And I guess we looked at everything which is important for you to know. So, again, you need 51,000 experience to get the IS-22. Then you need around 190,000 experience to get the IS-32. You do not need the tracks on the IS-22. I would say top turret is pretty decent. I would suggest to go for it, maybe even before you're getting the top guns, even though the top guns are much better. They are better, period. There is no sugarcoating. They are better, but the stock guns aren't really, how should I say, they aren't really like I wanna die bad. They're workable with. The IS-3, 2, definitely turret first. You have to get that turret first because this is going to make or break your game. Then you can focus on the tracks and then you can go for the big gun and then get the IS-2. Anyway, my name is RagingRaptor. I hope you enjoyed today's preview video. I'm sorry that we didn't have gameplay yet, but this is coming and I would say that most likely I'm going to play 2 games each. Or have 2 games each, where I'm going to play obviously the IS-2 as stock configuration and as a top configuration. Same goes with the IS-3 2 and ST1. We're going to have a see. Look, important to note is I don't really understand what Wargaming did with this right here. I don't know why they implemented this gun. Maybe because it's historical. Again, there is no point in getting it. It's only marginal better, and you're wasting a lot of experience. Your prime directive is to get that turret, is to get those new tracks, is to get the big BL9 guns. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I see you on the battlefield and hope you enjoyed today's video. Cheers guys.